There is a profound moment in every individual's life when a silent voice within begins to whisper a truth so powerful, so liberating. Once acknowledged, it can change the entire trajectory of their existence. The truth is not hidden in books, not buried in temples, certainly not owned by a select few. It's a truth that lives within each of us. But the tragedy is that most people ignore it, walk past it, or drown it under the noise of everyday life. This truth is simply like everything you are desperately searching for. Freedom, peace, joy, strength, confidence is already within you. You've had it since the very beginning, but the world taught you to look everywhere else. From childhood through the park, we're conditioned to seek approval. We're taught that validation comes from grades, then jobs, then relationships, then wealth. We're told that happiness is waiting at the end of some external achievement. As we chase these illusions, we become prisoners of expectations, trapped in a cycle of not enough. We try to change our circumstances, our careers, even our appearance, hoping that with each change we'll feel complete. But time passes and the void remains, because no external change can fill an internal emptiness. Most people ignore this truth because it demands responsibility. If the answers are within, then the journey is inward. Means facing discomfort, sitting with our fears, questioning our beliefs, and breaking the cycle of distraction. And that's not easy. Easier to point outward, to blame others, to blame the system, to wait for luck or a miracle. But growth doesn't live in ease, running the park. It lives in the uncomfortable space between who you are and who you're capable of becoming. The world offers countless ways to escape from yourself. Social media, constant entertainment, workaholism, substance abuse. Through the park, endless scrolling, they all serve the same purposes: to keep you from being still. Because in stillness truth rises, and truth demands change. Through the park. Real freedom doesn't mean the absence of struggle. It means breaking the chains of mental conditioning. Running the park, it means recognizing that your worth isn't tied to your success, your productivity, or anyone's opinion of you. Running the park, it means letting go of the belief that something outside of you needs to happen before you can be happy. The power to change your life lies not in some future event, but in the present moment, this moment, right now. When you slow down and become aware, when you stop identifying with every thought that passes through your mind, you begin to see clearly. You begin to notice that your thoughts are not facts. Your emotions are not enemies. Your past is not a prison. The park and your potential is not a fantasy, it's real, but you have to claim it. You have to walk through the fire of honesty and say, I am the only one responsible for how I respond to life. But this truth doesn't ask you to become someone new. It asks you to return to who you really are underneath the noise, the pressure, and the masks. Asks you to peel away the layers of self-doubt and remember that you are enough as you are. But you are also capable of becoming so much more. When you live this truth, you stop waiting for permission. You stop being afraid of failure. You stop being defined by your past. And for the first time, you begin to feel free. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. That is the moment your life begins to move in alignment with your spirit. That is the beginning of true freedom. That truth, once embraced, can never be taken away from you. Greatest transformation in life begins the moment we stop to control the external world and start mastering our internal one. It sounds like a simple idea, yet it's a truth that many ignore because it challenges the very foundation of how we've been taught to live. Society has conditioned us to believe that freedom is something we must earn, that it lies somewhere outside of us. Perhaps in a better job, perfect relationship, a bank balance, or a lifestyle. We are trained to chase, to compete, and to conquer thinking that once we arrive at some destination, we'll finally feel whole. But this path often leads to exhaustion, anxiety, and an ever-growing sense of lack. The park. The truth that sets you free has nothing to do with what you possess and everything to do with who you are becoming. It's not about adding more to your life. It's about subtracting the lies you've believed. It's realizing that real peace doesn't depend on conditions. It arises from awareness. Through the park, most people continue to run from themselves because the idea of sitting in silence and observing their own mind is uncomfortable. If you never take the time to know your own thoughts, feel in fears, how can you expect to have power over them? We live in a culture of distraction. We wake up and immediately reach for our phones, not even allowing a moment of reflection. We fill our days with tasks and noise, mistaking business for purpose. In that state, we become disconnected, not only from others, from ourselves. And that disconnection is the true source of our suffering. When we ignore the truth of who we are, running the park, we live in a constant state of internal conflict. A part of us knows there's something more, but we're afraid to explore it. So we settle for comfort. We settle for patterns. We settle for survival, not realizing that we were born to live fully. Freedom, in its deepest sense, comes from understanding that your inner world determines your outer experience. Your thoughts shape your emotions. Your emotions shape your actions, and your actions create your life. If you don't take ownership of your inner reality, the world will shape it for you and not in your favor. This is why awareness is not just helpful, it's essential. When you begin to witness your thoughts reacting to them, you create space. And in that space, you gain power. You no longer live on autopilot. You begin to choose with clarity. Most people ignore this truth because it's not a quick fix. It's a lifelong practice. It requires patience, discipline, and humility. Running through the park. You have to be willing to admit that perhaps the way you've been living isn't serving your highest potential. Park, you have to be open to letting go of old identities, old beliefs, and even old dreams. This is where freedom is born. Not in addition, in release. When you embrace this truth, life begins to work in unexpected ways. Challenges no longer break you, they build you. Criticism no longer weakens you, it sharpens you. Uncertainty no longer scares you, it excites you. Because you're no longer controlled by fear, by ego, or by the need for approval. You become grounded in something unshakable, yourself. And that self is no longer a collection of roles or masks, but a living, breathing awareness. You begin to realize that happiness isn't a destination, it's a byproduct of living in truth. And truth is not always comfortable running through the park, but it is always liberating. The more you align with it, the lighter you feel. You stop needing the world to approve of you because you have already accepted yourself. And that acceptance, that quiet, unshakable knowing, is what it truly means to be free. Freedom is a word we often hear but rarely understand in its truest form. We associate it with the ability to speak our minds, to move where we please, to make choices without constraint. There's a deeper level of freedom, one that has nothing to do with external conditions and everything to do with your internal reality. It's the freedom from your own mind, from your fears, your limiting beliefs, and your self-imposed expectations. This freedom doesn't require money, status, or a perfect life. It only requires the courage to see the truth and to live by it, even when it's uncomfortable. The truth is that you are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are not your mistakes, and you are not the voice that tells you that you're not enough. You are the awareness behind all of it, running through the park. The part of you that notices the thought, feels the emotion, but isn't ruled by it. Most people go through life believing every thought passes through their minds. If a voice says, "You can't do it," they believe it. If a fear rises, they stop. If a memory hurts, they carry it like a weight. But none of these things are who you are. They are passing clouds. And the moment you realize that, something profound shifts inside you. This truth sets you free. But most people ignore it because they are too distracted to hear it. We live in an age where silence is rare and stillness is uncomfortable. We're taught to be constantly moving, doing, achieving. But the real transformation happens when you stop still enough to observe your own mind. That's when you begin to see clearly. You start to realize how many of your decisions are driven by fear, how often you act to please others, how rarely you pause to ask through the park, what do I really want? To live in truth means to stop performing for the world and start living for yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a conscious way. It means looking at your patterns and asking hard questions. Why do I keep ending up in the same situations? Why do I feel stuck? Why do I keep running from myself? These aren't easy questions, but they are the doorway to freedom. Because the moment you take responsibility for your inner world, you stop being a victim of the outer one. Most people resist this kind of truth because it demands change. And change is uncomfortable. It forces you to let go of the familiar, even if the familiar is painful. It means releasing the story of you think you are to discover who you truly are. Kind of transformation doesn't come overnight. It comes through practice, through the daily discipline of self-reflection, mindfulness, and conscious action. It comes from choosing truth over comfort, presence over distraction, growth over safety. When you begin to live from this place, your entire life begins to change. Chasing the path. Use chasing things to feel worthy because you already know your worth. Fearing through the park. You stop fearing failure because you understand that failure is just a teacher. You stop needing validation because your confidence is rooted in self-awareness, not opinion. And that's real power. The kind that doesn't shake when life gets hard. You realize that the freedom you've been seeking was never about the world letting you go. It was about you letting go of the world's grip on your mind. Freedom is quiet. It's steady. It's not flashy, but it's unbreakable. And once you touch it, you will never want to go back. Because to live in truth is to live without fear, without pretending, and without apology. That's the life most people crave. But only the few who are willing to face themselves will ever truly find. Most people live in a silent prison without even realizing it. It's not made of walls or bars. It's made of beliefs, fears through the park, and habits they've never questioned. Day after day, they repeat the patterns, make the same choices, and feel the same pain running the park, yet they never stop to ask why. They tell themselves that this is just how life is. But buried beneath all of that noise and repetition lies one quiet truth that has the power to set them free. You are not your past. You are not your failures, and you are not your story. You are something far greater. But until you recognize this, you will always live smaller than your potential. We often define ourselves by what we've been through. Pain through the park. We collect painful memories and carry them like scars, building an identity around them. We say things like, I'm just not good at this. Or, this always happens to me. Or, people like me never get ahead. These statements aren't truths. They're beliefs. And beliefs, when repeated long enough, become your reality. But they are not fixed. They can be rewritten. You have the power to change your mind, and when you do, your life will follow. The truth that most ignore is this: AEE freedom is not about escaping difficulty. It's about changing your relationship with it. A life will always present challenges. There will always be obstacles, losses, and uncertainty. The person who is free is not the one who avoids these things. It's the one who walks through them without being defined or destroyed by them. That kind of inner strength doesn't come from pretending everything is fine. It comes from facing the truth, being honest about your fears and choosing to act anyway. This truth is simple, yet uncomfortable. It requires you to stop blaming others, running through the park, to stop pointing fingers at your circumstances, and to take full responsibility for how you show up in life. Running through the park. That doesn't mean everything is your fault, but it means you are the only one who can choose how to respond. The moment you stop reacting and start responding with awareness, you reclaim your power. You become the author of your story, not just a character in it. Most people ignore this because it's easier to stay numb. It's easier to stay busy, to distract yourself with work, entertainment, or even other people's problems. But at the end of the day, when the noise fades and you're alone with your thoughts, the truth will still be there waiting for you. It will whisper, "There's more. You are made for more." But you have to let go of what you're clinging to. Letting go is one of the hardest things a person can do. It feels like losing a part of yourself. But the paradox is that when you let go of what's false, you make space for what's real. You begin to connect with your inner strength, your inner peace, and your inner wisdom. You begin to trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, fear loses its grip. You don't need to become someone new. You need to remove everything that is not you. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. That memory lives inside you. That version of you is still there, waiting to be uncovered. All it takes is the willingness to look inward, to be still, and to listen. When you do, running, you'll find a clarity that no one can give you and no one can take away. You'll begin to make choices not from fear, but from truth. You'll walk lighter, speak clearer, and love deeper. Not because life got easier, but because you became stronger. That's the real freedom, running through the park. And it starts the moment you stop ignoring the truth that's already inside you. We are taught from a young age to seek answers from the outside. When something goes wrong, we look for something to fix it. Someone to blame, something to buy, somewhere to escape. This habit becomes so deeply ingrained that we never stop to ask the most important question, the park. What if the answer isn't outside at all? What if the solution isn't about adding more, but removing what's false? There is one truth, often overlooked, that can shift everything. Freedom is an inside job. And the people who live in conflict, confusion, through the park, or fear are usually the ones who haven't taken the time to sit in silence and listen to their inner world. Running through the park. Freedom doesn't mean being able to do whatever you want, whenever you want. That's not freedom, that's chaos. True freedom means being able to choose a response in any situation, regardless of the circumstances. It's the power to stay centered when life is spinning, to stay clear when your emotions are loud, running through the park, and to stay true when the world pressures you to become something you're not. That kind of freedom is rare, not because it's unreachable, because most people never slow down long enough to realize it exists. The reason most people ignore this truth is because it feels invisible. It's not shiny, loud, or immediate. It doesn't come with applause or recognition through the park. It requires you to turn your attention inward and observe your thoughts without judgment, to question the beliefs you've always accepted as truth. That process is uncomfortable. It demands humility. The park. You may realize that much of what you thought was you was actually a product of your environment, your upbringing, or your fears. It takes courage to peel back those layers and see what's left when all the labels and roles are stripped away. But once you do, running through the park, you begin to see how much unnecessary suffering you've been carrying. You start to notice how often you've given your power away, how often you've allowed the opinions of others to shape your decisions running through the park. How often you've lived according to what's expected rather than what's true. And that awareness, painful as it may be at first, is the doorway to something profound. It's the beginning of real choice. You don't have to continue the patterns you inherited. You don't have to stay stuck in the identity that was handed to you. You can pause, you can reflect, you can change. And change doesn't have to be a dramatic transformation overnight. It can be small. It can be quiet. But it must be intentional. Because without awareness, you are just reacting life. With awareness, you begin to create life. Running the truth that sets you free isn't some mystical secret. It's simply this view: you are the source of your own experience. It doesn't mean life will always be easy or that everything is under your control. It means that how you see, think through the park and respond determines the quality of your life far more than any external situation ever could. That's a powerful realization, and with it comes responsibility. No one is coming to save you, but that's not a burden, it's a gift. Running through the park. Because once you stop waiting for someone or something to change your life, you realize you had the power all along. Freedom begins the moment you stop running from yourself. The moment you sit still and say, I'm ready to see clearly. From there, growth becomes possible. Healing begins, purpose awakens. Running through the park, you become less concerned with what the world wants from you and more focused on what your soul is trying to say. And when you begin to live from that place, nothing can hold you back. Not fear, not doubt, not even the past. Because truth has a way of dissolving every chain it touches. And once you've touched it, running the park, you will never settle for anything less than the life you were truly meant to live. The most overlooked truth in life is often the most important one. Everything you truly need is already within you. The strength, the clarity, the peace, the wisdom, it's all there. But most people never realize it because they're too focused on the noise outside. They're busy chasing goals, chasing people, chasing security, thinking that freedom lies somewhere beyond the next achievement or relationship or success. And in doing so, they become trapped. Not by the world, but by their own mind. This is the hidden prison so many live in, running through the park, and they carry the key in their pocket without ever using it. We've been taught to believe that life happens to us. Our worth is measured by how others see us. That if we just do enough, achieve enough, prove enough, we'll finally be free. But true freedom has nothing to do with what's outside. It's about waking up to what's going on inside. It's running through the park. It's about becoming aware of the patterns, the beliefs, and the stories that have shaped your reality and choosing to rise above them. The truth that can set you free is the realization that you are not your past, your pain, or your patterns. You are the one who observes it all through the park. And that awareness, that stillness beneath the noise, is where your freedom begins. Most people avoid this truth because it requires them to stop and look inward. That's a difficult thing to do in a world that glorifies distraction. Every time life feels uncomfortable, we're offered a dozen ways to escape. Scroll, consume, pretend. But every escape from the self is also an escape from growth. And every time we run, we delay the moment we could finally break free. Freedom doesn't come from avoiding discomfort, through the park. It comes from walking through it. It comes from being present with your fear, your insecurity, your doubt, and choosing not to let them define you. The most powerful shift happens when you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this revealing within me? Because every experience, every challenge, every setback is a mirror. Life is always reflecting something back to you. Your beliefs, your attachments, your resistance. When you begin to see life this way, you no longer feel powerless. You start to feel alive. You stop reacting to life and begin responding to it with awareness. This is the truth that transforms. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be present. You are not here to live up to expectations. You are here to live in alignment. You are not here to follow someone else's path. You are here to walk your own. But to do that, the path, you have to be willing to let go. Let go of the roles you play, the masks you wear, and the lies you've believed about what makes you valuable. Running through the path, when you begin living from this truth, everything changes. You stop seeking approval because you've already accepted yourself. You stop fearing failure because you see it as a teacher. You stop doubting your worth because you know it doesn't depend on your achievements. Through the path, you begin to trust life, not because it's always easy, but because you've built a relationship with yourself that is steady, honest, and resilient. Freedom isn't found in escaping your problems. It's found in facing them with open eyes and a steady heart. It's found in knowing that no matter what happens around you, there is a calm, clear space within you that can never be shaken. Space is your truth. That truth is your freedom. And once you realize it, you stop living in fear. You stop settling for less. The path. You stop pretending. You simply live, and that kind of living is rare, but it is the most powerful life of all. There comes a moment in every person's life when they begin to feel the weight of everything they've been carrying, the expectations, the fears, the doubts, the pressure to be someone they're not. It can happen in a quiet moment of reflection or during a storm of chaos. In that moment, something inside whispers, there has to be more than this. And there's a truth so freeing, so powerful, that it can shift your entire existence. But here's the catch. Most people ignore it. Not because they don't want to know it, because it challenges the identity they've built. It requires a kind of honesty that's rare in this world. The truth is this: you are the creator of your reality, not partially, not occasionally, completely. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your emotions, through your choices. These are the architects of your experience. And until you own that truth, you'll keep looking outside yourself for answers that only exist within. You'll keep blaming, resisting, and avoiding, hoping that something or someone will come along and fix your life. But nothing truly changes until you change. No amount of external success can fill an internal void. No relationship can heal wounds you haven't looked at. No achievement can give you peace if your mind is still ruled by fear. This is not an easy truth to accept. It requires responsibility. It means looking at your life, the good and the bad, and saying, I created this. Not in a way that brings guilt or shame, but in a way that empowers. Because if you created this reality, you can create a new one. That's what most people don't see. Through the path, they think their life is something happening to them, but it's happening through them. Every thought you believe, every emotion you feed, running through the path. Every story you repeat is shaping your life moment. The problem is that we've become disconnected from our inner world. We've placed more value on the outside. How we look, what we own, what others think, than we do on the inner self. So we live out of alignment. We work jobs we don't love, stay in relationships that drain us, keep habits that destroy us. All because we've forgotten how to listen to ourselves. We've forgotten that the most important voice in our life is the quiet one within. Reconnecting with that voice takes practice, takes stillness. It takes the willingness to be alone with your thoughts and not run from them. Through the path, it means observing your mind without identifying with it. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who watches them. You are the awareness beneath the thinking. And that awareness is where your power lies. That awareness is your truth. It sees clearly. It doesn't caught in drama. It doesn't cling to the past or fear the future. It simply observes, understands, and guides When you live from this place of awareness, you begin to act with intention. You begin to speak with clarity. You begin to choose based on truth, not on habit or fear. Life doesn't suddenly become perfect, but it becomes real. You no longer need to pretend or prove. You no longer seek freedom. You live it. This kind of life is rare because it requires you to let go of what's safe and familiar. It requires you to leave behind the version of yourself that was built for survival and step into the version that was born to thrive. Running through the park, it requires daily commitment, not to changing who you are, but to becoming who you've always been beneath the noise. That is the one truth that will set you free. And once you see it, once you feel it, once you begin to live by it, you'll never go back. Because no external success can compare to the peace of living a life that's truly yours.